Truth Talks. Please, I'm excited about the Truth Talks. They are addressing true fellowship and what it means, what true fellowship and corporate worship looks like according to the Bible.
Chronicles is one of those books that as we get into it, how many people been reading it? Y'all starting to get a hang of it now, at least? Like, is it getting a little better when you read it? You're starting to associate with the families and kind of seeing how the lines go? Well, if you've been reading it in this past couple weeks or last week, y'all seen they kind of threw another monkey wrench in. First was the name. They was like certain translations, they have Caleb as a different name. And as they do it, you get down and you say, all right, well, I get it. Back on track. I know who Caleb is. You almost had me confused. But in the process of the teaching, again, they're going to say, not to confuse you, but we're trying to really pinpoint lineage. You're going to see them say, here is Israel's sons. But here's one particular, Judah. And then it's going to go all through Judah's line. And as it gets through Judah's line, then it's going to say, oh, yeah, we forgot. Judah had a bunch of brothers too. So let's tell you about them. And it's kind of they start running through them. And actually bring them back after David. I'm giving you a little heads up here on how it's going to go. You're going to see Caleb. You're going to see Israel, the sons mentioned, as we mentioned last week. Then we're going to see Caleb. You're going to see Caleb's brothers, and they're going to talk about them. And I'm going to give you a little bit of insight why they're being mentioned, what is some of the significance in it, because a lot of these people are being mentioned because of the records that were kept over time and the wars that happened in the middle of tribes and changed the Israeli culture as we know it today. So where do we leave off at? 21, right? We're starting to get into some of that lineage of Caleb. We talked about the different clans that came from it. Trying to get right back where I was at. So we were in 21, but as we mentioned, we were talking about Caleb, his family, his wives, his children, some of the acts that they did, and then we continue on down. So I'm gonna back up a little bit to where we talk about. Ooh, it's kind of now it really is. Bear with me here. All right. So we see where we talk of Gilead in 21, right? This is another one of the sons. He ends up marrying one of the wives, but he was very old. He took it. Eventually, they go in to make towns in Gersha and Haram. Now, why did I kind of say I want to pick a pause right there with those two? Any significance when y'all was studying anything got pulled out about those particular clans? You said, hey, those two clans, they started, and then what happened is them two came together and they took other towns from each other. Right? That's what it sounds like, right? Those two clans were over there. Israel was having some internal conflict, and those two clans kind of took other towns as they were starting to grow. Now remember, these are all family. These are all people related, really close to each other. I like this. You could take a little time in the middle. All right, I want to make sure we get it. All right. So let's talk about Gersha. Am I saying that right? All my better people at names than me. Am I hitting that one right on the head? All right, Gersha. All right, Gersha is a region in the kingdom mentioned in various biblical contexts. It provides insight, geographic location, so forth, so possible location. But if you want to know more about the Gersha in Joshua 13 is listed as a territory in Israel that failed. The Israelites they failed to drive them out. So as you can see, not only were the land was coming into them because they were taking it from them, but it was also land that the Israelites were supposed to drive them out. We see this is during Joshua's time. All right, and that's why we see the increase in towns. Other verses, we got 1 Samuel 27-28. It was raids conducted against them. You got more in Samuel. So y'all want all the verses with the Gershites? The Gersha? I can give them all to you. It's a lot. I'm just giving you a couple so you can see the story as you go through your text, and I don't want to shortchange you. I just want you now. You got a little red light when you see those names and you hear about those conquests and those kingdoms that was being taken on. All right, Gersha believed to have been an independent. Here we go, Armenian or Armene kingdom located in Basha. So if you go in the 22nd Psalm, David speaks of the bulls of Bashan. So you see where it's going? Even in the Psalms, these kingdoms are being mentioned. These kingdoms are being talked about. All right, northeast is, say again. It was the go to the 22nd Psalm. I can't remember where it says. It's in there. He talks to 22nd Psalm. Bashan. Bashan. And it was near the northern Sea of Galilees. The capital of being Atel. So that's the Gershites. Now I'm gonna give you a little bit about the Aram. Aram is a region mentioned throughout the Bible, of course. Genealogy listing, you can find it in genealogy list. Aram is listed as one of the sons of Shem in Genesis 10:22-23. Highland ancestral, we also see it mentioned here in Chronicles. The kingdom of Bible mentioned various kingdoms and regions Aram, such as Aram, Damascus. Now, as we know, what happened to what we read about in Daniel? Damascus have a play in there anywhere? Right? So we see that these kingdoms are coming together, and as we haven't really dug into the kings yet. We're talking about the kingly lines. And when we begin to dig into the kings, we'll start to see how some of these names and kingdoms are interacting with Israel, also shaping how the lineage of Jesus Christ comes. You following me? Because without no lineage to David, there's no lineage to Christ, right? But we see here that that lineage has a longer start than where most people pick it up. Tired? Is it Monday? No, it's just Chronicles. It's all right. I get it. So as we see, again, I'm just pointing out the potential, the things you'll see. So let's continue on where you see, I like to read this in a language that I can say it clearly. All right. Ooh, that went too far back. So we'll start at 21, right? Is that enough backstory for y'all to get y'all up to where we at? Because Caleb got a lot more going on. All right. After Hezron went to the daughter of Machir, father of Gilead, whom married, he was 60 years old. So she bore him Segub, and Segub became the father of Jair, who 23 towns in the land of Gilead. Now y'all see where I said they were off the shore of Gilead. So now we can see how this conflict is going to start after the death of Harazon and Caleb Aripherethah. Did I get that one? I wrote that one right. All right, I'm working on it. Debbie said this. She was saying that when. No, please. No, the name and please correct me on these names, because one of the most difficult things is that stops us from digging into the Chronicles is sometimes the difficulty of the names. You in here trying to read the names, your mind is rolling, your tongue ain't rolling right with some of the you start to struggle. And I'm not gonna lie. Now this is kind of a little offbeat when it comes to Chronicles. It's not only just good to say, hey, let's talk about the book. Sometimes it's good to talk about the emotions that come along with reading the book of Chronicles. Some of the names can be discouraging. But what I don't want you to do is don't worry about all the names and getting them 100% correct. Because we all know that there is only one name that is above all of those names, right? So everybody in here know how to say that one, and probably multiple dialects, languages, other understandings. You got them from all different places. So that's the name above all names. So yes, we may, or I may, bad your name, but if you know how to say it correctly, please tell me. I don't mind, because I'm still gonna have some trouble saying it. Eric has been, if y'all haven't noticed, Eric has been up here like sliding me the name. Sometimes I'm like, and he'll say it, and I'm like, yeah, I knew that one. See?
Sometimes that's not good. You can hear one person say it, when you hear another person say it, you don't put two together.
Right. You try to help me out? All right. And the funny thing is, in the mornings or whenever we study Scripture and Chronicles on, we put it on, and the guy on there, and he's saying them so clear, and it makes me feel so confident, because it's like, yeah, I knew how to say that. No, and I didn't. But because somebody else clearly said it, it makes the scriptures flow a little better in my head. So what I'm telling you, that roadblock for me may be for you, but don't worry so much about the names. If you're getting in there, and out of respect, if you ever meet a person, they introduce themselves and that is their name, try to learn it. And this is the case. We're trying to learn it. But right in this case, I have someone standing in front of me saying, this is my name. And in fact, Chronicles is a good springboard to even talk about the fights and the stuff over names. Again, we did not grow up in Israel. We did not grow up in that culture. So we, as people who study the scriptures and being taught by others who may not be from those cultures, we try our best to learn these names. And as we try to press through them in your own personal studies, don't beat yourself up. Because Chronicles is such a beautiful book, and the devil will try to beat you up with those names because he'll hit you with Ramathamatha, Grizzlamasha. Like you'll just sitting there and you'll be like, I can't even read. God don't want me to read the Bible because I can't read. What you got, brother?
I was going to say, you made a very good point about getting distracted when we're reading any book, because the only reason the genealogy is here, the lineage is here, just point to the legitimacy of the Lord Jesus Christ being able to sit on that particular line. So that's a really good point that if we understand all roads lead to Christ, when we stumble over something that is not less significant because God put it here, we kind of keep the main thing the main thing. The reason why I'm looking at this genealogy is because I want to see the legitimacy of the Lord Jesus Christ in this line. So that's a good point when people read any book, because the enemy, I feel like you can get anything you want in the scriptures, but don't understand the lordship of the Lord Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and Matthew did a beautiful job summarizing it up in the opening books of Matthew. And it's one of the reasons why, as we go into Easter week, right, this would have been a very specific, significant day. If we're keeping the calendar as close as in our mind, and this would have been a significant day. Today would have been the day he rode in, right? He would have rolled in on a colt of a donkey. And yet, when he came in, the palms were put on the ground, the cloth, like, you have to understand, people were taking off their fine garments and laying them on the ground as he walked in. They wouldn't have understood that if the Chronicles weren't in such order. Remember, Jesus was always asking, did you not read the scriptures? Did you not study? Did you not know of me? Did you not hear? And we know that the Chronicles was written when? Second Temple, right? So if they were written Second Temple, and the Pharisees and the Sadducees were teaching from these things, that means that the Chronicles at some point may have been part of the teachings, because that was their history. Every part of this was important to them, so it should be important to us because this now becomes our history. Christ has adopted us into the family. So we try to learn. Again, don't get discouraged. When you ever go to a family reunion and it's like been some years and you're going, this is cousin so-and-so, cousin so-and-so. 15 minutes later, you forget all the names. Can you imagine showing up to this family reunion and all these names right here? I'm going to just shake hands and smile a lot. All right, so let's continue on through this role. So we now have, we're going to go from Caleb, because Caleb, they finish a little bit of Caleb's line, and then they say, well, let's get into Caleb's brother's sons. See, I put it in plain terms. The son of Jeremiel. I've been working on that one. That's a good one. Jeremiel, firstborn Harazon. Right? Ram is his firstborn. Bana, Oren, Ozim, Ahiah. Jeremiel also had other wives, whose name was Atar. She was the mother of Onan, the son of Ram, the firstborn of Jeremiel. You see how I keep the language. If you keep with the flow of the language, you'll see how the family tree is developing. All right, the sons of Onai, Shammai, Jada, the sons of Shammai, Nadab, Abishur. The name of Abishur's wife is Abihail. She bore him Ahanaban, and Molid, the son of Nadab. See, I haven't messed up with the easy ones. Sheled, Apaim, Apayim. There we go. See y'all. Man, look at this, man. I told y'all, kingdom properties here. Sheled died childless. All right, so some of my other studies, dying childless in this case, a lot of times meant you had no sons. All right, that was big in Hebrew culture. If you didn't have no sons, they considered you died childless. If you go back and you look at some of the stories, non-canonical stories of Mary and Joseph, this was one of the things that they harped on Joseph about really big in the process of Mary. Hey, you don't have any sons. And then when Mary bore Jesus, we all know how that story went. But before that, Joseph had no sons. Can you imagine Joseph in the town, how they treat him? Because this is the culture. Joseph, you ain't got no sons, man. What's wrong with you? So forth and so on. And there we see. And I just wanted to point that out because it is another few names as you go on, you may see they died with no sons. But you also see where a man has no sons and he gives away his daughters. I was just talking to Justin. We was just talking about, he watched the show, and over on the show, what was they talking about? Egypt. All right, there is a connection. Maybe we're not so much connected to their side, but we see in the lineage that they are connected in this side. Meaning, again, we see Gentiles being grafted in. All right, we always talk about the main names, the main roles, but we see that Gentiles are being grafted in by this is my servant. He's faithful. And when we know about servants, we got to always remember what's being said in the Old Testament about a servant. A servant isn't a slave. A servant could have been somebody, hey, I worked for you this amount of time and I'm ready to go, but instead of leaving, I'll stay. Well, that servant has shown himself faithful. So if I have daughters and I know he's not going to run off, I can now give my daughters to him to continue my sons. So we see how that works in the bloodline. All right, let's finish rolling through the names. All right, Seled died childless, hang your head. And the son of, whew, here we go, Apiam. Debbie sound like a teacher, like I told you how to say it once. Apiam, the son of Apiam, Ishai, the son of Ishai, Shishan, the son of Shishan, Ahala, the son of Jada, Shamar, and it continues to go on. I'm not going to belabor sons. I'm really not going to skip through too much, but we get ready to get here to what I was just talking about. Again, another person died childless. The son of Jonathan, Peleth, Zara. These were descendants of Jeremiel. Now, Shishan, remember one of the other sons? Back up at the top. All right, Shishai, he had no sons. He had only daughters. This is the situation where I was telling you about the slave, or in certain texts it says servant, all right, whose name was Jara. All right, Jara was a man, I guess he found worthy in his home. As he was worthy in his home, he said, here are my daughters, and they bore him sons. Attai became the father of Nathan, and Nathan became Nathan of Zebed. Became the father of Iphilah, and Iphilah who? And we know who Obed already, and Obed became the father of Jehu, Jehu of Azarah, Azarah became the father of Helez, Helez became Elisha, Elisha became the father of Shishimai. Shishimai of Shalom. And Shalom became the father of Jechamiah. Did I got that one? Jechamiah of Elisha. All right. So the sons of Caleb's brother. Whew. I wish they could just start making these sentences in the beginning, right? But I'm trying to break this down for you because this is one of the ones, right? The sons of Caleb's brother. Huh? Some say the, but mine said the sons of Caleb's brother of. All right. So who are we talking about here? Simple, right?
Yeah.
No confusion. All right. So let's roll. All right. So let's roll. We still rolling. All right. Mashai, his firstborn, was the father of Ziph. The sons of Marashah, father of Hebron. Now, we also know that Hebron is what? Is that the same place where they was going? All right. So remember, some of these names sound familiar because the names were lands, lands were names, names were people. They would switch them up. Hey, if we have a place here and it's been, our grandfather's been here, this place is now, that's the name. Or if our lineage is in this area. Remember, we're dealing with tense. Moza, Gazir, oh, did I skip some? Hold on. Woo. All right, the sons of Shemai, Moan, Maon. Boy, I tell you, y'all pick the person who could barely read to do all the name read. All right, thank you. See, that's what I like. See, more building, not tearing down. Maon was the father of Beth Zor. Remember, now we're starting. Iphah was Caleb's concubine, born Haran, Moza, Gazir. Haran became the father of Gaza. The sons of Jehada, Regem, Joathan, Geshan, Pelet, Ephah, and Sapha. Makai, Caleb's concubine. That's a lot of kids. Shibber, yeah, it's another concubine. Terahana, also bore Saf, father of Mahatama, Shiva, father of Mechbenah, and the father of Gibeah, and the daughter of Caleb, because he had daughters, right, was Akashah. These was the descendants of Caleb. Whew. All right. Those were a lot of names, all right? And a lot of those names come with tribes. And as we roll into the 3, I'm gonna give you some of the tribes that were in 2, so we don't miss them because they pop up in the story in different places. All right, so we talked about Aram. We talked about Gesher. So here are some of the other groups. The Rehabites. All right, we're going to see some of these names. The Rechabites, a group of known for their obedience and command to their ancestors. Joanadab, did we see that name a little bit up there? Including not drinking wine, not building permanent homes, and not planting crops. In Jeremiah 35, they're going to be referenced. And their significance is they demonstrated the heritage and faith used by Jeremiah as a contrast to the disobedient Israelites. So when we see how some of these lineages are already starting to be in Jeremiah's time, even though we're mentioning these names here. Only reason I bring it up because a lot of these tribes, when we start to really go into the kings, the names are going to pop up, and I don't want them to be a mystery to you why they're causing so many problems. Or in the midst of the king showing up to the other kings and saying, hey, we're from Aram. You mind letting us take a look around? And like, sure, no problem. Come on in. I don't have a problem with you coming over here taking a look at our storehouse and whatever else we got. As you can see, we're going to see that a lot of these people, these clans, these nations, they were upholding the faith. So when we see the destruction of Israel and we look at some of the past language after the destruction of Israel, how the faithful remained and were taken into Babylon, how there was some left there in Jerusalem. We're going to see all of that, but we get to see some of the people. And this is just a couple, not a lot. The Netophites. They're mentioned in First Chronicles. Where are we at?
Verse 54.
54. Yeah, 54. That's what I'm saying. I'm going back and giving you some of the names. All right, just letting you know what some of those. Inhabitants of Netopha, possibly associated with Bethlehem or surrounding areas. We're going to talk about, they were talked about in 2 Samuel, verse 23, 28 through 29. We mentioned them in First Chronicles 27, 27:15, Ezra 2:22, and Nehemiah 7:26. Now, Ezra and Nehemiah come when? So this is, we know we're talking about, again, people afterwards. All right, remember, some of the people went back afterwards, were part of small tribes. These are the people that were either going in or going out, but their tribes were maintaining what they were to do, as we can see in the stories. All right. Ezra 2:22. So their significance is mentioned among those returning from exile and serving the Israelite society. So we see these people coming back in. The Manahites, Hyathites, that's a big one. All right, a subgroup, a family of the tribe of who? Benjamin. All right, so when we see these names and we see Benjamin mentioned under Judah, right? You understand why when the king, oh man, we didn't get that far. I almost jumped ahead. I was about to tell you about the kingdom, man, when they was arguing and they was like, nah, we gonna hang out with this. But just now, I just told you the tribe of Benjamin is hiding deep in Judah's bloodline, huh? Yeah. Now, we don't go through the richness of this. Benjamin, anytime joining up with Judah might sound like something rare and out of pocket. Like, oh, why would Benjamin join up with Judah? Well, you can see. Family members were given to each other. Clans and tribes were united, and they were always under Judah. All right, so part of the Benjamite lineage, preserved ancestral heritage. We have the Zorites, descendants of who? Caleb, as we were here. We learned about that. Chronicles 2:54. They represent a specific clan within Judah's lineage. The Kenites, not to be confused with the Canaanites. The Kenites. All right, a group associated with Cain or a separately entity with some allied with the Israelites. So again, we even see descendants of who here? Cain, right? Known for metalworking and various roles in the Bible narrative. All right, yeah, I think that's it. I think I gave you all the good stuff. Yep. All right. So as we continue to roll on, we talked about those clans and this. Now, as we transition to 3. Now, it was in my heart to continue on one way versus the other, and I will leave it kind of to thought because we may get to the end. And to have the continuous flow, I had two minds. One mind was to get to 3 and stop at Solomon and then go right to where it was at. But then that was shortchanging what we came here for. Remember why we started Chronicles as the opener verse Kings, verse Kings.
It's the overview of Kings. It's pretty much a consolidation of what happened.
It's an overview. It's a later version illustrated of what happened with the Kings. But the reason why we went straight to Chronicles is because we missed a lot of stuff that was going on in David. And as I was studying, I was like, man, it gets to Solomon, it gets to Solomon, and then Solomon's line goes all the way into the Kings. It start talking about a lot of the things that happened between the Kings, and I didn't want to take that from you. So it was in my mind to say, okay, let's put a pin, not to confuse, get to Solomon, put a pin, go to 9, start talking about David, his lineage, the things that he's going to do. Then we go back to Solomon. We run down the line of Solomon. I know it sounds confusing, but if you stay with me, you will see it in the order that when you read it, even though your mind sees the Bible, it'll start to put it together like the puzzle, put the pieces where it was. So when you're reading and you say, oh, I'm reading about David here in his line. All right, a lot of it is going to talk about things that already happened, things that we talked about in Samuel, Abishai, all the different coups, David running. So when we go through the lineage, I'm not going to belabor you a lot with David's story because we covered a lot of that. But Solomon's story and his son's story is what we came for in the Kings. But again, they placed David's story right here in the beginning of the Kings because they had to show you how he got all the mighty men and everything. So once we get to Solomon, I'll leave it up to you. We can continue to roll through all the names and then come back. We can continue to roll, go to David, and then as we originally want to proceed, or we could take that break in between so you won't miss the richness of what these people did, and then you can actually start seeing it. Because as I'm reading Kings, or as we go through Kings, I'm gonna be going back to Chronicles to show comparing scriptures in 1 and 2. So I'll let y'all mull that over. At the end, y'all let me know which direction you want. Because if not, I'll pick the direction and we can just go from there. But I like to give everybody a little bit of somewhat, man, let y'all, I used to love it when the teacher used to let me feel like I can control the class, even though I really didn't. Because half of the stuff I probably said, y'all was like, man, let's just go whatever direction you're going to go. You remember those? Turn to page 56. Who loved the adventure? Am I the only one that loved the adventure books? Okay, so y'all telling me by him saying it was some adventure books, we're going to have some turn to page 56 moments, and we might be on page 3. Can we roll with that? Trust me, I won't lose you, and if I'm going too fast, we can always... The adventure books. So the adventure books was like this. They would give you a book, and I tell you, this is some of the modern day study, no offense, but this is some of the modern day study of most books. The adventure books ruined it all. They would give us a book. In a book, you'll start reading on page 10, and you will get to the bottom of page 10, and page 10 will say, if you want to know what happened to this person, skip to page 58. So you literally would skip to page 58, and it will pick the story up with just that person, and it will continue on, and then sometimes it'll tell you, if you want to do this, and it'll have you kind of going back and forth throughout the book. Now that is, it breaks the normal pattern of read. And with Chronicles, a little break and a little bit of those adventurous stories in there might give us a...
So we're family. When we get to family, Solomon, go to chapter 9.
Oh, an adventure book story has filled it in. So we're going to put that pin in it. When we get to 9, when we get to Solomon, we really start talking about, we're going to say, hold up. Haven't been introduced to Solomon yet. If you think about in the order of the scripture, have we been introduced to Solomon? It would be a disadvantage to go into Solomon's lineage and start telling you about a bunch of people just to have you scratching your head. When we go back and we finish the names, you're going to be like, man, that motor scooter Manassas, I knew it. I knew from reading it. So let's try it that way to keep everybody engaged, to keep the story flowing so we can actually see what it's like. I mean, so far, we've already seen with Adam to where we are right now. We're getting ready to see the kingdom shift in a way that, a lot of people say God didn't intend it, but I think it was exactly how God intended it. Not think, because the scriptures are right here and they're true. we know that it was exactly how God intended for this lineage to be seen. Whether you see it in the order that the scriptures put it together or whether we talk about it here, we're going to see the whole story. And we're going to see how we got to the book of Daniel and Babel. All right. So we're at 3. And these were the sons who were born in David to Hebron. Now, Hebron was David's first home, right? He set up there. So Hebron, these are the sons who were born there. We have his firstborn was Ammon, Ahino, the Jezreelite. The second, Daniel, by Abigail, the Carmelite. And the third, by the third son of Absalom was by Micaiah, son of Micaiah. All right. The daughter of Ptolemy, king of who? We just talked about that, right? So we see these kings have roles. Some were helpful, some were against, some were like, hey, but we see the start. All right. All right. Sovereign of Geshur, the fourth, Adoniah, son of Haggith. Oh, I'm reading wrong, and these names are better over here. All right. Whew. Yeah, I was wondering, say, whew. All right, the Jazalites, the second Daniel, Abigail, the Carmelite. Ooh, yeah, these names are completely different. Start reading them. Absalom, Micaiah, daughter of the king of Ptolemy, Geshur, the fourth. I'm gonna skip down on that. I'm gonna try to get us back to where we was at. 6, 3, 3. 3, 3. All right, I'm gonna stay with me. 4, 3. All right, the fifth, Shephatiah. Y'all just want to see me. Y'all want to see me. That's what it is. See, I'll be trying to get past it, and y'all just keep seeing me. But you know what? I'm here for every second and every name because we're going to have fun. Because by the end of this, we either all going to be name experts or all of our tongues going to be tired. They're going to be like, oh, man, y'all go to Firm Foundation. They over there speaking in tongues. It's not speaking in tongues. We just can't say some of these names. They're going to be like, what they over there saying? I just got tired. All right. Enough jokes. Get back to work. All right. So the sixth born in Hebron, where he reigned for 7 years. So they're talking about David's reign. So we're going to see a little bit of that work that David was doing in that 7 reign. But where do we see it at? Where do we see that 7 years at? We already seen some of it. We ain't going backwards. He was in Hebron, right?
Yeah.
So we're seeing a lot of that in Samuel. We already seen a lot of that going down on the books. Again, like I said, I'm not gonna beat David's lineage up too much because we have already covered a lot of it. All right, sixth born where he reigned in Hebron in 7 years and 7 months. He reigned 33 years in Jerusalem. There he was born in Jerusalem. Shemai, Shabad, Nathan. That's another Nathan, huh? Solomon. 4 by Bathsheba, daughter of Amil, then Ibar, Elisham, Eliphat, Noag, Nekpig, Japhiah, Elishama, Eladiah, Eliphilet, 9. Whew. All these were the sons of David, besides the concubines, and Tamar was their sister. So he had a daughter. All right. So remember, daughters, when we think about the patriarch of the scriptures, daughters were there too, because some of the daughters were the reasons why this line came on. Not with David, but I'm just pointing out some of the things, you'll hear people get into conversations about the patriarch of it. Yes, it comes to a patriarchal lineage, but women were there, and they definitely were important in keeping this role going. We know a lot of them are mentioned in some of the greats, right? All right, so, and David had sons of Haziah, the descendants. Now, here we go. So Solomon, these are saying the descendants of Solomon, right? We're going to stop there. And we're going to roll on over to 9. All right, now, while us rolling over to 9, I will have to give you a little bit of the short stuff that goes in there. They talk about between there the lineage of Solomon, the different things that he did. They kind of just line them up, let you know who was born to who. And when it gets to Solomon, it starts to roll really fast, really quick if you haven't noticed it. And then it goes back to the brothers of Israel, basically the 12 sons. And it talks about their tribes in depth, and it gives a little bit of details in there. I'm not skipping over them to say we're not going to go back to them, because we are. But what I am saying is this: I don't want you to miss that David also talks about the priests that came back as well. So it's priest is mentioned in here. So you're going to see David building up his squad. We're going to see David gathering together his team. This is after David has been chased by Saul. All right, we see the first opening in 9. I know if you haven't read it yet, don't worry about it. I'm just giving you a brief overview. A lot of the first opening we see after they talk about the genealogy, they talk about bringing in the priests to get everything going in Jerusalem. We see a lot of the conversation, and then we finally get to David, because we're going to get to him. We're going to see kind of after the battle with Saul. Saul has died, and David is kind of in command. The people, the tribes have come to David and said, "You're our guy. You're in charge. The Philistines are kicking our butts, and everybody else too. I need you to clear out the land around, because we want to be happy people." All right. Can you imagine a new kingdom? One that was in turmoil for however many years that David was running from Saul. Because you have to think, even though Saul was running out and fighting, who was suffering in the midst of it? Because who was the people that was constantly running with Saul in those fights? Remember, it was something that Samuel told all the people of Israel, that what was going to happen. If y'all take a king, what's going to happen? He's going to count you. They're going to take your sons, and your sons are going to go out to battle. So can you imagine during Saul's time chasing after David and fighting the Philistines, right? So it was a pretty big war going on. So you can imagine the turmoil in the town. David comes in now. He's still battling, but now he's winning. He's wiping out the armies around him. He's making Israel a stable place. He's also building up his walls. In fact, David got so comfortable that he said, "This will be the time to build a house." And then there's the line that God tell him. Why did God tell David he wasn't going to be the one to build a house?
Because he counted the people.
He counted the people, and he had what? He had too much bloodshed. And what did he tell Solomon? He tell him about his son. He'll be a man of what? He said to David, he said, "David, you do not build my house because you have too much blood on your hand, too much blood sin. But your son, he will be a man of peace with no wars around him," which lets you know that in a peaceful time, in a peaceful kingdom, it was supposed to continuously be peaceful. Solomon was supposed to have no wars around him because David had spilled all the necessary blood to make Jerusalem what it was, a perfect kingdom. So the only thing that could take Jerusalem down was what? Huh? The only thing that could take down. So we might as well close the book and go right back to teaching Daniel. There ain't no need to tell you what the fall was, right? We see David a perfect king, and by the end of it, we see the king losing his eyes and being dragged into watching his sons get murdered. There you go. That's how we literally go from David and all of his adventures to the last thing we see is the blinding of Jerusalem. Because remember, it's the king. Huh?
Deportation.
Blinding of Jerusalem, the taking of the eyesight, the slaughtering of his sons, and the being dragged into captivity. And that was almost like the state of Jerusalem. It was blind, its son was dead, and it was being taken off to captivity. The head of the kingdom followed by what happened. All right, so let's get. We got a lot of time. All right. All of Israel was registered. They registered themselves by genealogy. And see, they were written in the book of the sovereign of Israel. And Judah was exiled to Babel for their trespasses. All right. So we already know this is after the fact. The reason why they're talking as a matter of fact is because they're writing the history. So even though we may hear things that are going to happen more in detail, don't be taken aback by what they're talking about. All right. And the first habitants who were in the possession of the city of Israel were the priests and the Levites. And I got to get back. I keep going back to this book because it's just so easy for me to read, but I got to get the words right. Temple servants. Oof. All right. Some may say Levites and the Nethium. It may say that. All right. Depending on what it is, that's just the temple servants. Depending on your translation. All right. So the inhabitants of Jerusalem, remember, these are the people going back. This is after they're going back home. They're going back into their land. So I know this story sounds a little bit out of place, but if we've been reading Chronicles on your own, a lot of times you might feel like, where am I at? All right, so I'm bringing you back where at. So the inhabitants of Jerusalem after the exile. Some of the people of Judah. Here it is. Judah, remember by tribes were coming in. Judah, Benjamin, Ephraim, Manasseh, they lived in Jerusalem. Utah, Uthiah, son of Amminhud, son of Omari, son of Imri, son of Bani, son of Perez of Judah, and the Shalites, Sholonites, not the Shalites, not the Shalites, not the Shalites. I mean, it's a lot of ites in there, so stick with me. No. Now look, the funny thing is, everybody knew the Shalites. They was like, "Nah, it ain't the Shalites." It's okay though. It's okay. They probably was studying Chronicles and was like, well, we can't say that one. Let's just call ourselves the Shalites. It sounds pretty close. Huh?
Two different clubs you talked about.
Yeah. All right. So the Shalites, Aha, the firstborn, and his sons. The sons of Zariah, Jewel. That's a weird, nice way you spell Jewel. And their kin, 690 of the Benjamites. Now you see these low numbers going back into Jerusalem. When Jerusalem fell, I recently read the book of Baruch. Baruch. That's how you say it. And in the second book, he talks about the fall of Jerusalem. You know, this number here that was going back in there, that number, you should understand when the older people went back in town, the ones that was the scene, they wept. Having such little after seeing the kingdom raised up to what David and Solomon bought, and you come back and you only got 600 priests. The temple in some places alone might have had, 30, 40, 60 people just washing the plates, serving the bread, taking care of the service. You got 600 people in a destroyed temple. Remember, they had to rebuild it. So them 600 people went back, there was priests first. It should let you know the priest wasn't weak. We always see that the teachers and the leaders as weak. Oh, they teach the scriptures, they're weak. No, these people went back, sharpened plowshares, and worked on the walls, and they came up with military strategies. Again, we'll get into a lot of that as we go into different books, but I just want to let you know that even though the small number was going back, you can see that it wasn't in the former glory it was, but the 600 people back was also the remnant of hope. All right, so we got 600 people, and inhabitants who were in the possession of their cities of Israel were the priests, the Levites, the servants, temple servants, and some of the people of Judah. Hold on, I'm going to get back to where it's at. We are 7. Get to moving around. I get squirrely. All right, a Benjamite, Saul, son of Mesulam, son of Hodaviah. I got that one. Ooh, and this one, son of Hasanua. There you go. I bet. That's the Ibnia. Okay. Son of Jeroham. Eli, son of Uzziah. Look at that. I can try to be fancy. Son of Makari. Goodness gracious. I'm gonna get one. I'm gonna get one. I promise you. Look, Philadelphia, and I don't mind because look, it makes it even better. Meshullam, okay. Son of, there we go. We just gonna go to Debbie. Son of Ruel, I got that one. Son of Abinadjah. What? Don't laugh at me, Eric. I'm doing my best here. Look, when y'all go back and y'all read Chronicles, I got it. When y'all go back and y'all read Chronicles for the second time, and y'all,
so we got to figure out.
yeah, y'all go back and read it again and again. Them names, they gonna beat y'all. I read them and I'm like, look, man, these are some rough names. And it's funny, I am somebody whose first name, my government real name is Other, so they could have put me in here. Somebody would be like, how you say that one? All right. And their kindred, according to their generation, 956. All of these were the heads of family according to the ancestral. All of these were the heads of family according to their ancestral houses. Again, they kept the lineage so they can track the house, so they knew who the priest was that were going in the house. All right. Now remember too, some of these people that are coming back in here eventually lead to what? Who do they eventually become? This is the new temple. This is the building. Not saying that this is where it started. Not saying this is where the bad started, but what is this temple going to be when Jesus comes? Right, a money.
Yeah, thieves.
So we see that its intentions in the beginning was for what? Why was the temple built? Worship. Well, why was the temple built? Why was the second temple built? Like if we look at the scriptures and we think about why did they build the second temple? One, because they wanted to go back in and rebuild the glory to God. Previous what they had.
First Solomon's temple, and tore it out.
Right.
When Zerubbabel came back, then we were supposed to head that up.
So we know the temple was built in that time because they wanted to build the temple back up. But we also know that the supreme reason why everything was done in the Old Testament. No second temple built, no veil to tear. Everything had a purpose. Who told them to go back and build a second temple? Right? They were instructed by God to go back and build a second temple. So when they go back to build the second temple and they're building it up, it's being built for the sheer fact the scriptures can be fulfilled. Everything that happens now is for Jesus. Even a temple being built. Everything. Everything's a foreshadow. Everything's in place. Even down here, even the priests coming back being the first ones. Because normally when people come in town, right? Now we are talking about the Israelites, devout, faithful people. We're not talking about a regular group of people. So normal people come into a town and the first thing they want to build is homes, living spaces, community stores. When they got back in town, the first thing these priests worked on was the temple.
That was taken from them, their place of worship, when they left, so, when they was in Babylon, they really couldn't worship like they wanted to, so as soon as they got released, that was their first, entrances, how can we be God again?
So as we see, and I know I told y'all we're going to run through the priests. I'm just kind of painting a picture of the priesthood. We're going to get to David, but I wanted to paint the priesthood, show you that the priests were back in there, and this is how this book is being written. Everything that was going on in Babylon, everything that was going on with them coming back from exile, and then they're going to I don't want to say rewrite, but write history's account, because it's oral now, of what David did in that time frame. Any questions? All right, we can run through this last priestly family of the priestly of the priests. Now these are the priests that are in there: Jedediah, Jehoram. Come on, Debbie, I got that one. Oh no, Debbie was she was taking a break. Good. Jachin. Just go ahead. All right, cool. Oh no, I'm looking at another note. So again, a lot of this stuff is from Nehemiah. I'm not teaching Nehemiah, but they are in Nehemiah, and I like to give it when they're mentioning of the priest. So Nehemiah 11, 10 through 14, if you want to read about a particular priest I'm talking about. All right. Ariah, son of Hilkiah, son of this one just keep coming back. Meshulam, son of Zadok, son of Mariatha. Did I get no? That Marioth. Maria. I thought I was gonna get an easy one back. Ahatab. Huh? I'm working on it. The chief officer of the house of God, and Adahiah, son of Jeroham, son of Pashur, son of Malachiah. Who? Malchijah. Okay, Malchijah. All right. And Mattasiah, son of what was that? Adiel, there we go. Son of Jazariah, son of yeah, man. Y'all look, Meshulam, son of dang, Meshilamith, Meshilameth, son of Immer. Besides the kindreds and the heads of their ancestral house, 1,760 qualified for the work of the service. As you can see, as I mentioned before, it's starting to grow. More and more. But remember, these numbers are small. These are small tribes. These are numbers that are coming in a tribe. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that these wasn't big groups, but in a former glory of what Israel was, it wasn't. So the priests coming back into the house, the numbers weren't there. All right. We're not going to go into the Levitical families. We'll pick back up when we come back next week. We'll run through it if you can. Read as much on your own. Throughout the names. If it's questions, comments, concerns about any of the tribes, any of the names, bring them. If I have an answer, I'll give it to you. If not, I'll go find it. The goal is to, when we read the scriptures, it becomes normal, understandable as much as you can. I know the names are rough, as mentioned, but when we read it, instead of just seeing passages, we see the whole story, and then the passages fall into the place where they are. Meaning, if I was to tell a story of the beginning, or in Genesis, we can see the passages start to come alive. And guess what? From here on, as you read the Chronicles, when you read them, hopefully these passages, even the names, start to come alive, which makes the story and the process a little easier to understand. All right. So we'll get into the Levites, the Levitical families. After the Levitical families, we're going to talk about Saul family a little bit. Some of his bloodline. We know what happened to Saul and his family, how he fell, what happened to his house, some of how it transitioned into David's house, some of the protection that David put over Saul's house. We know that David didn't have any children with Saul's daughter. Right? That was the only one he didn't have children with. So when we look into all that, we're really going to start to get into David's life and start talking about some of the fun stuff. I didn't really want to get into too much of it tonight. I was going to go straight to Saul, but I wanted to paint the picture of the priests that were actually going back in, because when you see the fall, you're going to want to see that the priest still came back. Any questions, comments, concerns? I love you guys, man. You guys make teaching this awesome.